So we recently had one of our clients that had their parents that were going to be on the purchase contract, and they shouldn't have been. Now, from a lending perspective, the parents were a non-occupied co-borrower, and the title company kept calling them a co-signer. But here's the problem. If you add the wrong person to the purchase contract, you can accidentally give up ownership rights and even lose homestead exemption here in Texas. So let me clear this up in the contract, how it should be, who should be on there, who shouldn't be on there, and I'll deep dive into a little bit from a lending perspective and from a mortgage perspective. Since I'm a loan officer, let me first explain from a lending perspective. From Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all these, the term co-signer isn't really used, right? For when you're qualifying to purchase a home and you're not going to be living in the home, that person would be considered a non-occupied co-borrower. So the borrower is the person that's going to be borrowing money and lives in the home and is on title. And then the non-occupied co-borrower is going to be the person that just helps qualify from like a credit perspective, and they may or may not be on title. Now, title companies sometimes will call that person a co-signer, but that's for shorthand legally. These are different. We don't really use that from a lending perspective. So let's look at the contract real quickly. And so from a purchase contract, you know, if you're a realtor or if you're the buyer, you need to make sure that whose name is going to be actually owning the home after the contract is over. So who is the purchaser, who's going to be on title. So those people need to be, if it's more than one person, right, need to be listed, say a husband and wife. And then like in this case, title wanted to add the non-occupied co-borrowers to the purchase contract, but that was going to mess up some of these things we talked about, the home ownership and the homestead exemption. So purchase contract should just really be the people that are going to be purchasing the home and living in the home. If they're not going to be, other people aren't going to be on the deed and have ownership of the property. So the deed is what actually transfers legal ownership from the seller to the buyer, right? So that's who should be on the contract. And then the note or the IOU, we also sometimes call it a promissory note, like I promise to pay back this loan, right? All the borrowers, including the non-occupied co-borrowers, will be on the note, right? So the primary borrower's husband and wife, and then the parents, they're all going to be on the note. All four of them are qualifying from a mortgage perspective. They're all going to be on the note. They're all going to be signing the note. And then we have the deed of trust. In Texas, that's in lieu of a mortgage, right? So this gives the lender the right to foreclose on the property if the loan isn't being paid. If the promissory note isn't being paid, then, you know, they can foreclose on the property and take back ownership. So the borrower can sign this, and sometimes, depending on the situation, the non-occupied co-borrower can sign this too, even if they're not owners, right? So they can, this is just, who do we need to foreclose on to get the property back, basically, right? So the note is the money, it's the money that's being borrowed, that's got to be repaid, and the terms are laid out in the contract, right? And the deed is who owns the property. So let me go back on why this matters so much, right? So if you put the non-occupied co-borrowers on the purchase contract, then now they will become the owner. Now, from a legal perspective, that can mess up if they already own a home in Texas or anywhere else in the United States. That can mess up their homestead exemption, because first, the husband and wife are going to be getting 100% of that homestead exemption, right? And now they're going to be sharing it with the other two owners of the property. So that's going to mess up. They're going to get 50% of the homestead exemption. And in Texas, currently we have a $100,000 homestead exemption. It's going to be increasing to $140,000 recently. You can check out our property tax calculator, and I'll link that below. And then when they go to sell the property too, now you're going to have to get the parents to sign off and sign the new deed if they go to sell the property in the future to the new owner. So you have to get all four people in agreement again to go sell the property versus just the two people that were supposed to be the owners of the property. So our advice is you don't need to put them on the contract if they're just going to be signing the note, right? And so they're still going to be legally responsible for signing the note and making sure that's getting paid. But they don't necessarily are getting ownership rights to the property if that's the way it's going to be set up. Now, in some cases, the non-occupied co-borrower might want to have ownership rights. So you need to make sure with your client, like what the plan is on that, and making sure everyone understands who's going to be having ownership of the property afterwards. And so are you on the note? Are you on the deed? Are you on the deed of trust? All those things need to be clarified and talked to with your client beforehand. You can get title to help you out with those questions and your lender to help you out. But it's just very important to know like who's going to be on the purchase contract, who's going to be on the note, and just deciding, you know, who's going to be signing the deed of trust. So if you are a non-occupied co-borrower, You just need to be really clear up front and making sure you're communicating the title, what they want, because sometimes they don't have all the information that you might have. They're just kind of getting the contract and saying, well, hey, who are these other people? Are they coming to sign? I need to put them on the contract, right? I have written a full blog on this. If you have any questions, hopefully the blog can help you answer some of these questions. It's got some cool diagrams and pictures on there, and like flow charts kind of help you figure out like who should be signing what and give you more details if this video doesn't break down enough of it for you. So as always, we're here to bring you real life experience to all your real estate needs. Like and subscribe.